All right, let's dive into a huge idea that's already reshaping our world: the circular economy. Now, I know, it sounds like a buzzword, but this is a real, fundamental shift in how we make and use, well, everything. And it's set to hit a massive tipping point by 2026. So let's unpack what that means.
But first, I want to start with a wild question. What if waste just didn't exist? Seriously, imagine if everything we think of as trash was actually just the starting point for something new. That one idea flips so much of our world on its head, and it's right at the heart of what we're talking about today.
To really get why this is such a game changer, we first have to look at the system we're all living in right now, the one that came up with the whole concept of throwing things away in the first place.
For more than a century, our economy is run on a very simple, straight-line model: take, make, waste. We pull resources out of the ground, we manufacture them into products, and then, once we're done with them, we just throw them out. It's a one-way trip, from the planet to the landfill.
And the problem with a one-way street, right, is that it has a dead end. In this case, it's a giant, growing mountain of waste. Every single product is basically designed with an expiration date. This model, by its very nature, just can't last forever. So what if we could build a system that doesn't have a dead end?
And that brings us to the big alternative, the circular economy. It's a pretty elegant solution that actually gets its inspiration from the most successful, most efficient system we know of, nature.
Okay, so what is the circular economy, officially? Well, it's a system that's designed from the very beginning with three big goals in mind. First, to get rid of waste and pollution completely. Second, to keep products and materials looping through the system at their highest possible value. And third, to actually regenerate nature, not just take from it.
When you put the two models side by side, the difference is just it's night and day. The linear model is a dead end. It's a straight line that ends in the trash. The circular model, though, is a loop. See that last step? It's not waste, it's return. That one little change completely designs waste out of the system from the start.
And this is where that whole inspired by nature thing really clicks into place. You know, in a forest, when a leaf falls from a tree, it's not waste, right? It's nutrients for the soil. The circular economy just takes that same exact logic and says, hey, let's do that for everything we make. The end of one thing's life is just the beginning of another's.
So how does this actually work? Well, it's all built on these three core principles. First, you design products so that waste isn't even created to begin with. Second, you create business models that are all about keeping products and materials in play for as long as humanly possible. And third, you make the switch from just extracting from nature to actively making it healthier.
Okay, so I know what you might be thinking. This all sounds great, but people have been talking about recycling for decades. Why are we saying 2026 is some kind of tipping point? Why is all of this suddenly happening so fast right now?
Well, for starters, you just have to follow the money. We're talking about a $4.5 trillion economic opportunity by 2030, according to Accenture. To put that into perspective for you, that is bigger than the entire economy of Germany. When there's that much value on the table, companies don't just notice, they start re-engineering their entire business from the ground up.
But it's not only about the money. What we're really seeing is this perfect storm of forces all converging at once. You've got consumers who are demanding more sustainable products. You've got amazing new tech like AI and the Internet of Things that makes it possible to track and recover materials on a massive scale. At the same time, resources are getting more and more scarce. And on top of all that, governments are starting to put new policies in place that are really pushing businesses this way.
So all of these different drivers are pushing companies to get really serious about going circular. Let's take a look at what this actually means for how businesses operate out in the real world.
So here's where the rubber meets the road. Instead of just buying and owning a product, you might start subscribing to the service it provides. Instead of that product ending up in a landfill, it gets returned to the maker to be remanufactured. And the materials it's made from, they're no longer just disposable. They're part of a never-ending loop.
What this all adds up to is a huge pivot from selling things to selling performance. Think about it like this. If a company leases you a washing machine instead of selling you one, suddenly they have a financial incentive to make that machine last as long as possible. Durability, repairability, those things suddenly become massive assets, not annoying costs.
So clearly, this is way more than just a new business strategy. It actually changes our fundamental relationship with the stuff we use every single day. So let's talk for a second about what this circular future could actually look and feel like for all of us.
And this right here is the key mindset shift. For decades, being sustainable was all about damage control, you know? It was about being less bad. But the circular economy just flips that whole idea on its head. The new goal isn't just to do less harm, it's to be more good, to build systems that are actively positive, that heal nature, and that create value that lasts.
So I'll leave you with this to think about. If every single product you bought was designed from day one to eventually come back to its maker, how would that change the way you choose things? What would you value more? Durability? A timeless design? That's the circular world that we're building as we speak. Thanks for watching.